Behind the Scene with David Bedein, April 23rd, 2023. There's an insurrection going on right now, which is beyond anyone's imagination. In the 52 years I have lived in Israel, I've never seen anything like that. The insurrection is not public protests. It's not a request in policy, but a request for the overthrow of the government of Israel. The basis of which is the fact that Israelis have been making money hand over fist through illegal loopholes in the Israeli law which allow for profits from terrorist organizations. Now, I want to share, but disguised as humanitarian aid to the Palestinian Arabs. This is an advertisement. You can just see the graphics on the advertisement. Okay, these are corporations doing business with the Palestinian Authority and giving business to unemployed Arabs. 61 businesses in what's called the Globe's newspaper, sponsored by the ad is sponsored by the Partnership for Breakthrough in Arab Employment. Looks good as you look at it. Isn't it nice that all these corporations are now making business with Arabs and giving them a way to make a living? Except it doesn't mention one thing. When you do business in the Palestinian Authority and you hire Arabs, you don't pay any insurance, you don't pay medical coverage, you don't pay anything on the record. Therefore, you have an easy way to make profits from the Arab sector instead of hiring Jews. And what the Israel High Court of Justice has allowed that system to go ahead without any interference. Again, what is painted as a system of justice because it makes a way to make a living for Arabs is actually a way to keep Arabs in a oppressed and suppressed position in the Israeli economy, as opposed to something which involves justice. In other words, a way of making a living legally and with income that's protected in case of an accident or whatever. And this is part of what's happening. A good portion of the Israeli economy feels or assumes that it will lose its way of making a living if the Israel courts are not justified and are not reformed in a proper fashion. What's important to understand that the profits that have accrued, according to the Globe's newspaper, $2.8 billion in capital investment from Israel, it looks good. Except that when we ask a question, even of rabbis, according to Jewish law, can you invest in an entity which will use its profits to conduct acts of murder and to sanction and pay for acts of murder? I can't get a response. Now, what are we talking about here? It sounds like an amazing thing. Look, you have a law passed by the Palestinian Authority in 2015 that if an Arab murders a Jew, he gets a salary for life. Now, that's not precedent in any law anywhere. If you pay a salary for anyone, you get a salary. If you pay a murderer, you get a salary for life. That's not anywhere in any precedent. However, that's what's been going on. Israel hasn't objected. Not one Jewish organization in the world hasn't objected. It's almost a perfect crime that's being carried out. Now, under the new regime of Benjamin Netanyahu, in the last 2 years, this is now being reevaluated, whether that law is going to be allowed, whether Israel is going to finally stand up and stop that law from being enforced. Only yesterday, a car ramming, and that only 2 weeks ago, a man in our community where we live in Efrat in Israel, Rabbi D, lost his wife and 2 children, two young women, in a drive-by murder. Now they've been offered millions of dollars to killers when they are the Palestinian Authority has made it be known that when the killer is either caught or killed, they will be awarded a salary for life. If they're killed, the family gets the salary. If they're caught, they get the salary. But no one's objecting. Again, that's part of the system that's being challenged right now by those who are fighting for judicial reform. And what's important to understand that this is because this is affecting so many people in the way they're making a living. Those same people who are fighting judicial reform are at the same time profiting from investments in the Palestinian Authority, and at the same time paying the bills for the insurrection. The insurrection is being orchestrated through various organizations affiliated with the New Israel Fund. They do not hesitate to say so. The New Israel Fund, which has more than 300 organizations under their wing, And this is what they're pushing. What's very important to know is that the New Israel Fund has basically redone Israeli history to try to make people understand that for example, that the Jewish communities in Judea Samaria were built on top of Arab communities that had existed, which is of course false. There were Arab communities that were removed in 1948 and replaced by Israeli communities. That didn't happen after 1967. However, that's what the New Israel Fund wants to get people to understand, so that there's a glorious thing behind it. And we have the American government and other governments refusing to say anything against the law of what we just mentioned, pay for slay, and our request of the American government, for example, to make a statement. Would you condemn the attacks that take place and ask the Palestinian Authority not to pay those who murder Jews? We get no response. All this is part of a system that's being reinforced today, and the attempt to make this look like a spontaneous protest is what's going on. People being paid to protest, that's something which has come out, the extent to which people who are organizing protests who are willing to take a fee for their work, and that's something which is anything but spontaneous. It would be one thing if there were protests happening which were organized and very carefully designed to affect the next elections. That's not what's happening. What's happening is a group of people decide there was an election took place, let's ignore it, and not convince the electorate, but overwhelm the electorate. One more detail not to be neglected. It would seem that the disinformation system of peace intelligence is operating overtime. Yes, there is a new publication which is circulating throughout the world that the Egyptians have developed a peace curriculum. And the memo that was put out apparently sent a reporter to take some pages out of the Egyptian curriculum to say that they were, promoting peace. Except where's the video? Where's the proof? This is the same organization, same group that put out a bogus report about Saudi peace education. In each case, we've asked a very simple question. If you're putting out such a piece of information, where is the video that goes along with it? Where's the audio-visual evidence? It's very easy to take a few pages out of a curriculum and say, look at this for peace. We've never forgotten how Shimon Peres, when he was foreign minister, said that the Palestinian Authority adopted a peace curriculum, except that they weren't using it. So you'll see this week a new news item which is going to circulate around the world. A lot of people are spending a lot of money to promote it as if there's a peace curriculum in Egypt. We know from various sources that there's a dominant war curriculum, jihad curriculum in Egypt. And all we ask is that these people putting out the peace curriculum, let's see some audio-visual evidence to show that this is the case. This is David Bedein reporting. Behind the scene with David Bedein. Happy Independence Day, Yom Ha'atzmaut.
المقاومة مشروعة 100%، سواء كانت سلمية سواء كانت عسكرية.
Here is the young man whom UNRWA appointed to be their ambassador of goodwill only 6 years ago.
الأغنية كالبندقية، الأغنية الوطنية لها دور في تحفيز الشعوب دائما الثائرة.
Let's introduce Muhammad Asaf, the rising star in the Arab world after he won the Arab Idol popularity contest.
أتحدث اليوم بصفتي سفير الأونروا الإقليمي للشباب، وهو دور أفخر بالقيام به وأشعر بمسؤولية عظيمة حياله.
Muhammad grew up in Gaza, in a refugee camp run by UNRWA, United Nations Relief and Works Agency.
درست وتعلمت في مدارس الأونروا، ووالدتي اليوم تعمل معلمة في الأونروا.
On Friday night, August 23rd, Muhammad Asaf filled the amphitheater in Roabi, just north of Ramallah, and whipped up the crowd with songs of violence, which UNRWA chose not to notice. Only hours earlier, not far away, a 17-year-old Jewish girl, Nira Schnerb, was killed by a firebomb thrown by a Palestinian Arab, which also maimed her father and her brother. Yet the UNRWA ambassador of goodwill decided to go on with the show, as if nothing had happened.
برغم هالظروف نشوف هذا العدد، هذا مفخرة. أهلا وسهلا فيكم، نورتونا وشرفتونا يا حبايب. نقول للعالم هنا باقون، هنا صامدون، في فلسطين أرضنا، للقدس التحية، لعاصمتنا الأبدية. علي الكوفي وعلم، يخلي البارود يهلل.
الأغاني الوطنية العساف اللي بغنيها فخر إلنا وفخر لفلسطين. الأغاني الوطنية هي بتكون دافع لكل شخص، إنه كمان هي جانب من جوانب المقاومة.
What Mohammed Asaf did not forget was to preach the new generation with the values that he had learned from UNRWA classroom to nurture the dream of the right of return by force of arms.
ما تنسى الناصري هالقلعة، بشر برجعة أهلها والقدس العاصمي والأقصى عالمها. إن شاء الله يا ربي نجمعنا باليارات.
Mohammed Asaf makes his presence known on the stage, but also in the schools in which UNRWA operates.
لما أنا بسمع أغاني محمد عساف ببقى متمسك بالوطن والفلسطين وهيك.
بتخليك تصير تحب في الوطن أكثر، بتصير بدك تسوي إشي للوطن، بتصير مثلا تقاتل العدوين الآخرين.
بشرفنا وبنورنا كلياتنا إمنا إم ناصر حميد اللي شرفتنا على الحفل اليوم. تحية إلها ولأبنائها الأسرى وإلى كل الأسرى.
Latif Hamad greets Mohammed Asaf on the podium. Her claim to fame is that she is the mother of 6 murderers, one of whom was killed, while the rest of whom are serving in the imprisonment for complicity in the act of murder of 20 people.
على عهدي على ديني على أرض تلاقيني أنا لأهلي أنا فديهم أنا دمي فلسطيني 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 وجبنا لك يا ديرتنا عزتنا وعروقتنا أرض القدس نامتنا وصوت ميلادي فلسطيني وأنا والله فلسطيني.
غزة بتطلع رجال. أهل غزة لما ينضرب صاروخ بيجوا، تانيين ينضرب عليهم صاروخ بشردوا، بخافوا. احنا ما تعودناش على الخوف، احنا مع الكرامة، يا بعيش بكرامة يا بموت بكرامة. الأغنية أيضا مقاومة، والكلمة مقاومة، والفن مقاومة.
فتنت روحي يا شهيد علمتها معنى الخلود شوقتها إلى الرحيل علمتها معنى الصمود